We live in a world of rigid systems, corporate rat races, and heavy societal expectations. So, it makes perfect sense that when the friction of modern life becomes too much, we look for an exit. We search for spaces of absolute freedom, healing, and equality. We look at spiritual communities, thinking, finally, a space with no bosses, no matrix, just pure connection and high vibrations. And for a while, it feels like coming home. But then, slowly, quietly, something shifts. You notice that certain people's opinions carry more weight, even though no one voted for them to lead. You notice a no is never really allowed to be a no. You notice that raising a practical concern, like how resources are managed or who does the daily work, gets answered not with logistics, but with a question about your emotional blockages. This is the paradox we're diving into today. Why space is built explicitly to escape hierarchy, so often recreated in a more hidden, more unaccountable form. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on these spiritual communities to look at the subtle social order that forms when traditional rules disappear. We will break down the hidden mechanics of the spiritual ego, from the myth of no leaders to the quiet tools of gaslighting and social shunning. We will look honestly at the human deficits of loneliness and the hunger for growth that drive us to these places in the first place. And at the end, there's a practical checklist to protect your own sovereignty. Let's dive right in. One of the most attractive promises of any spiritual community is the line, "We have no bosses here. We're all equal, just souls walking each other home." It sounds incredibly freeing, but sociologically, this is exactly where the trap closes. Back in 1970, a feminist organizer named Jo Freeman wrote an essay that nailed this exact dynamic. She called it the tyranny of structurelessness. Her main point was that there's no such thing as a truly leaderless group. Power doesn't vanish just because no one names it. If you don't build a formal structure with clear rules and accountability, an informal one rises up anyway. You just can't see it. Think about a normal job. If your boss treats you unfairly, you can point to a contract, go to HR, or at least name who holds the power. But in a structureless spiritual community, because everyone is officially equal, power gets slippery. It slides right past accountability. The leadership doesn't disappear, it just goes into the shadow. The group is still run by a small circle of founders or by a single charismatic figure. But because nobody holds an official title, you can't formally challenge them. There's no vote to lose faith in, no process to appeal to. The power sits entirely with whoever holds the unspoken spiritual authority, and everyone else is left navigating a maze of rules nobody ever wrote down or agreed to. Strip away the outside world's usual markers, job titles, nice cars, a fat bank account, and you might think you've eliminated greed and competition. But the ego is adaptable. It just finds a new thing to fight over, status. Instead of money, people start measuring each other by how aligned, awake, or high vibe they seem. A quiet pecking order forms around the leader or the founders, creating a very real inner circle. Proximity becomes the ultimate currency. The people who get to make the leader's tea, run the exclusive workshops, or sit closest during evening gatherings, they hold the actual power. This breeds a strange kind of performed humility. Newcomers figure out fast that fitting in means picking up the jargon, softening your voice, mirroring the calm body language, and never showing a raw, untranscended emotion. It turns into a quiet contest where whoever performs enlightened best wins the room. In a normal group, when something's wrong, money doesn't add up, labor's split unfairly, someone crosses a line, you sit down and deal with it. But in a space run by an invisible hierarchy, there's a built-in defense called spiritual bypassing. Bring a practical problem to the table, and the subject changes instantly. A concrete question gets treated as a symptom of your spiritual immaturity. Say you point out that 3 people are doing all the physical labor while everyone else meditates all day, or you ask where the community fees actually went. In a healthy group, you get a straight answer. Here, the question gets turned back on you. You're asked why this triggers you so much, or you're told that your anger is just your own unhealed trauma talking, or that you're bringing dense energy into a sacred space. This is gaslighting dressed up in soft language. By moving the conversation from a systemic problem to your personal consciousness, the hierarchy makes itself immune to criticism. The message underneath is always the same. If you spot a flaw in the community, you're the flaw. It keeps you second-guessing your own read on reality, while the leadership never has to answer for anything. So, what happens if you don't break? If you see through the deflection and keep asking, in a normal system, you get an actual confrontation, maybe even get asked to leave. But in a space that markets itself on peace and love, the tactic is quieter and honestly harder to shake off, is soft ostracization. The community can't afford to look anything but harmonious, so it rarely kicks you out outright. Instead, the volume on your presence just drops. The inner circle quietly stops sharing its deeper insights with you, and you find yourself left out of the late-night conversations around the fire. When you do speak in a group, you get pitying smiles and heavy silence, with the unspoken message being that they will just send you love until you heal. This kind of shunning is effective precisely because it leaves no fingerprints. There's no open fight to point to and defend yourself against. You're just quietly starved of warmth until the pressure becomes too much. You're left with two options: swallow your truth to get back in, or pack up and leave, carrying the manufactured feeling that you just weren't ready for a real spiritual community. To really get this dynamic, we have to stop looking at the system and start looking at ourselves. Nobody walks into these spaces looking for hidden tyranny. We're pulled there by needs that are completely real and that modern life just doesn't meet. The first pull is the hunger for our people. Modern life in a city can be brutally isolating, and we're starving for a tribe, a place where people actually see us. But ready-made spiritual communities often sell connection as a package deal. Instant love and belonging at the price of your independence. Stay in the tribe, and you're expected to adopt their rules, their pecking order, and their vocabulary without negotiation. But real closeness doesn't require you to erase parts of yourself. Instead of chasing one all-consuming collective that cuts you off from everyone else, it's healthier to build horizontal, independent friendships. Look for people who share your interests through work, hobbies, or conversation, while you keep your own life, your own job, and your own ground under your feet. That way, you keep the power to say stop the second a group starts to feel off. The second pull is the quest for growth, specifically the idea that real inner evolution needs an exotic backdrop like incense, remote ashrams, or a guru in white linen. We start treating our actual lives, our jobs, commutes, and family dinners as low-vibe noise holding us back. But growing in a sheltered, artificial community is the easy version. It's a greenhouse. The real test of your growth doesn't happen in an isolated paradise. It happens in your actual life. Can you stay grounded in traffic? Can you hold your center through a hard conversation with your mother? Your messy, ordinary routine isn't in the way of your growth. It is the growth. You don't need a guru or a special commune to access it. If you still do decide to join a spiritual community, you don't need to become cynical about it. You just need a clear set of criteria to protect your sovereignty. Before you invest your trust, test the space against these 3 rules. 1. Rules, not vibes. A healthy group can tell you plainly how decisions get made, who holds authority, and where the money goes. If every answer to a logistical question is a feeling or an appeal to trust the process instead of a fact, that's your first red flag. 2. The safety of a boundary dynamic. Pay close attention to what happens when you set a hard boundary or challenge an established group norm. A healthy community accommodates individual limits through open dialogue. An unhealthy one uses your boundary as an excuse for psychological analysis, telling you that your resistance is a sign of fear, pride, or a lack of spiritual maturity. 3. Keep your own line to yourself. No teacher, or community should ever be the only bridge between you and your own inner truth. The moment a group makes your self-worth depend on their approval or validation, that space is a cage, not a sanctuary. And here's the real insight underneath all of it. The ego doesn't get destroyed by white linen, incense, or chanting in a circle. In fact, the most dangerous ego isn't the one chasing money or fame. That one's at least honest about what it wants. The most dangerous ego is the one that's convinced itself it's already enlightened. It wraps itself in the language of love and light, insists it wants nothing, and uses performed humility to quietly dominate everyone else in the room. This is spiritual narcissism. Real growth isn't about escaping into a perfect community or finding the right guru to follow. It's a horizontal process. It's dropping the mask, accepting the mess of being human, and realizing your actual life, exactly as it is right now, already has everything you need for your spiritual evolution.